Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, where we say, am I allowed to talk about this? I mean, this is real. This is news. It's practical and the economy and all that kind of stuff. Am I allowed to talk about this? Probably not. I probably should not talk about this. Yeah, but I'm an ass beast, so I'm gonna talk about this. Because if you tell an aspie not to talk about something, then all you're going to hear from them is that thing. Anyways, I think this is going to be interesting. One of the things I talk about now with politics and global policies and all that kind of thing is basically how this will affect you as a technology professional, right? I get so many of these questions about how do I get a job, right? And as I've said, I can teach you how to solve problems. I can teach you on how to find problems to solve. I can teach you on how to value add when you're solving problems. I can teach you on how you sell your product or service to a customer. How do you get a job? Dude, I don't. Right? There's so much other crap going on in the world that affects whether or not you'll be able to get a job right now. Can I help you have a career? Yes, but a career is your lifetime in the industry. A job today, who the hell knows? And I think one of the interesting things that's going on right now is with the Trump administration and basically the breakdown of our power in the world and how we've used our power for weird purposes over the past number of decades, right? You know, we have our Declaration of Independence where we talk about inalienable rights and all that kind of stuff. At the exact same time, we allow autocrats and dictators to maintain power, right? We have constitutional rights for our citizens. At the exact same time, we teach other people how to torture the shit out of their citizens. And it's been a very weird thing. And the issue has been, as over the years, is, you know, we control the global money supply, right? The dollar standard has been normal. The SWIFT payment transaction system, we've controlled that. We have had the largest economy in the world, and so we've controlled that. If you want to be able to sell to our people, you know, you need to play ball. We've had all that kind of stuff. And the interesting thing with the Trump administration is, however you feel about it, that he's breaking down that power and he's breaking down the reliability that we are kind of a danger, right, with the tariffs, right? 1 minute there's 10% tariffs and 45% tariffs, 145% tariffs and 30% tariffs. We're gonna have 50% tariffs on copper. We're gonna have 30% tariffs on Mexico. Apparently tomatoes are gonna cost 21% more in the United States next week than they currently do. What? Yeah, apparently that's happening. Why are tomatoes going to cost more? Because we actually get most of our tomatoes out of Mexico, and so he's putting tariffs, 30% tariffs on Mexico. Ergo, by the time the tomato gets to our shelves, it will cost 21% more. Did you realize that? No, I hadn't realized that till I was reading this morning. Apparently, there's a block of tomato growers. There is a political block of tomato growers, and they're trying to, you know, get the tariffs revoked for tomatoes. What about the avocados? I mean, if you're gonna have avocado toast, tomatoes, anyways. Right? The hipsters really like their avocado on their BLTs. Anyway, we got this whole thing going on. And so one of the interesting things out there is for a lot of other countries that they just don't know how to deal with us anymore. Like literally, like, you know, we've been having this trade negotiation with Europe. It's been going on. All of a sudden, Trump decides to blow it up. Right? It is moving forward. It has been moving forward, and then he just says, "Bite me." So what happens when the United States becomes an abjectly unreliable partner? But then also it becomes interesting, what happens to the countries that we have protected for questionable reasons when our power seems no longer so relevant, right? And so this is a big thing with Israel. I talked about Israel before. I don't know what they're doing. I literally do not know what they're doing. They need to win 1,000 years of war, and I think they are winning the next 10, and that's about it. But anyways, right? They've done a lot of stuff, right? They are out there. They are ethnic cleansing. Is it genocide? Is it genocide? I don't know. You go and you look at the definitions of genocide, and that gets really wonky. It's kind of like the modern definition of rape. Like rape used to have a definition. And now you look at the modern definition of rape, and you're like, right? It's like, you put a knife to a girl's throat or you roofie her, that's rape. You start seeing this other stuff, like the definition of it has become so, I feel like that's kind of like the same thing with genocide. Like genocide, like the Armenian genocide. Nope, they tried to wipe those motherfuckers out. Like they died. They got marched for miles and miles and miles as they died on the march, and then they got to the place that they were supposed to be going, and then they got shot. Like that's a genocide. The Armenians were genocided. Like what's going on with Palestine? Is it a genocide? I don't know. You start looking at all the stuff, it's like, oh, you start getting into the definition. But is it ethnic cleansing, right? Like literally, Netanyahu has come out and said the Palestinians are not going to be allowed to resettle Gaza again, right? They are conquering Gaza. Israel is taking Gaza. Israel wanted Gaza. Israel is taking Gaza. So anyways, here's the deal. They are doing ethnic cleansing at this point in time, and a lot of the rest of the world has issues with it. A lot of people in the United States have issues with it. Like, what? I don't understand what's going on. Anyways, so what becomes interesting though, right, is Israel has been protected, right? Israel is a gnat speck of a country in the middle of a place that does not like them. Right? I've talked about that before when I backpacked through India. There were so many ex-Israeli soldiers that were backpacking through India when I was there. And the reason is once they got done with their military service, they had to go all the way to India. India was the first country that they could get to that was affordable, where the people were likely not to try to kill them, right? So anyways, right, you got Syria, you have Iraq, you have Iran, Egypt is highly questionable, right, there's this aspect, right? And so what keeps them going? What keeps them going is the international support, especially support from the United States. We've talked about this before with Intel. I'm not sure where the investment is now because Intel is kind of blown up, but Intel was going to be doing a $20 billion investment into Israel. They're going to be creating the fabs there, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be the largest, one of the largest investments in Israeli history. I'm not sure if this has to do with the war or just Intel blowing itself up. But anyways, I think that's a bit of a question mark right now. But, right, one of the things that's allowed Israel to maintain power and their place within the world is their support from the outside world. And so what happens when that support dissolves, right? Because basically what's happened is anybody who's talked out against Israel, right, has basically been tried to be crushed by the United States, right? The ICC, the International Criminal Court, right, they put out against Netanyahu, and so we're literally trying to sanction the ICC. Right, there was a prosecutor that was trying to go after Netanyahu and Israel for the war crimes that they have committed, and they're now being hounded by our police apparatus. Right, which is kind of a curious thing. But with all the wonkadoodle crap that the Trump is doing, there does become a question: at what point do you no longer take the United States seriously? At what point do you figure the United States is going to spank you anyway? So you might as well just do it, right? Yeah, think about that like we're being married. I've been married I've been with my wife almost 20 years, been married for 18 years. And here's the thing, right? When your wife is happy, and you're sitting there, you're going to do something, and your wife is happy. Your wife is just happy. And then you're like, if I do this, it's going to irritate my wife. And that's the thing, right? You're like, oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? How much do I really care? And your wife, right, you and your wife, everything's happy, everything's fine, everything's great, right? You're like, if I do this, I'm going to get spanked. Everything's going to go to hell. I just don't think I'm going to do that. I just don't think I'm going to do that, right? On the other hand, your wife wakes up in the morning. I have no idea why, but she just starts going after you at like 8 o'clock in the morning. You're not even awake yet. You have literally not even had a cup of coffee to do something stupid yet. She's already mad. And then it gets to be about 11 o'clock. And for some reason, I don't know why, she is just, right? And then you sit there and you start thinking about something, and that thing might irritate her. It might irritate her, might piss her off, might start an argument. But here's the thing, you think about it, you're like, you know what? We are going to get into an argument regardless. No matter what I do today, there's going to be an argument. So I might as well do this thing that I want to do, because I don't see how it's going to get worse. And I kind of feel like that with Trump. I do feel like Trump is like having his time of the month or time of the year, or time of the decade or whatever. And he's just being such a pissy little bitch to the entire world that the entire world has to ask the question, is it really going to be any worse? Like, he's already fucking with us anyway. I mean, he's fucking with Canada. He's fucking with Canada, for Christ's sakes. Nobody fucks with Canada. It's like fucking with Roxy. Like Roxy, like, don't get me wrong, fucking with Peanut. Peanut would try to take your face off. I get that. Roxy, she's a little 6-pound chihuahua, loves everybody, is just wonderful. Like, ah. Can you imagine somebody trying to fuck with Roxy? You would have to be a bastard to fuck with Roxy, right? That's like fucking with Canada. Why the fuck are you gonna fuck with Canada, right? They are 11th the size of the United States. We consume so many of their products. Literally, their power stations help power some of the United States. Don't fuck with Canada. But that's the thing, right? Trump, for some reason, has decided he's going to fuck with everybody, including Canada. And so if you're the rest of the world and you see the United States fucking with Canada, do you really give a shit anymore? Do you really give two fucks about the United States at this point in time? Because you know you're going to get into the argument. No matter what you do, the pompous little poodle piece of shit's going to try to bite you anyway. You might as well do whatever it is you want to do. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing, as we see with Israel. And so for the Israelis out there, I'd just say, be careful. I don't think this is going to work out the way you think it is. Again, the issue with supremacists. The supremacists believe that they are the right side of history, ergo everything's going to work out well for them. All I'm saying to the Israelis, I don't think this shit's going to work out the way you think it is. Hey, remember when Netanyahu said, if we have to fight with our teeth and nails, then by God, we'll do it? Yeah, my opinion was, deal. I accept that deal. Yeah, just roll back those F-35s. Just give us back our F-35s. Just give us back our munitions. You go out there and you fight with your teeth and nails, and we'll see how that does for you. Anyways, but yeah, exclusive. Spain and Ireland to join more than 20 countries to declare, quote, concrete measures against Israel. Turkey, Portugal, China, and Qatar also among countries that will be attending the Hague Group's emergency summit in Colombia next week. And so this is one of those things where things might get a wee bit wonky. This is one of the arguments I've made for Israel for a long time. Israel depends on the United States. The United States is failing. Look, I'm an American. Depending on the day, I'm more or less proud of being an American, but I am an American. I genuinely like America. Here's the deal. We got a lot of issues. We have so fucking many issues, right? Our debt is through the roof at the exact same time we're closing hospitals. Right? There is more college debt, student loan debt out there for people who have graduated college, and those college degrees are basically worthless. Right? Like, we've got so many issues. Like China, like, we got 99 problems. Like, China's like down in the 10th. It's way down there. We got so many other issues going on. And one of the things, like with some place like Israel, is when you get so much support from a country, an empire that is failing. What happens when that empire finally fails or gives up on you? Does not have enough resources to support its satellite states. Remember when the USSR failed? And as the USSR failed, less and less money went out to its satellite states. What happened to Cuba? Is Israel about to be the Cuba of the Middle East? Cuba was able to hang on to whatever degree while the USSR was willing to send them resources and the rest of it. The USSR falls, money support to Cuba fucking disappears, and now all of a sudden you got Cuba with major sanctions and embargo with what should be their largest trading partner, and all of a sudden they're not doing so well. Is Israel going to be the Cuba of the Middle East? That is where I would put my $5. And something to really be considered. Eli, but what you need to understand is you need to stop talking. You need to start listening. Because I get that from the Israelis. Eli, you just need to talk to me. It's like, no, you need to listen. Y'all need to shut the fuck up for a little while and just listen. And I think if your ADHD-addled minds can shut up for a little while and listen, you might realize the crap show you are walking your society into. But who knows? Who knows? More than 20 countries are convening in Bogota next week to declare, quote, concrete measures against Israel's violations of international law, diplomats told the Middle East Eye. The emergency summit is due to be held 15th to 16th of July, co-hosted by the governments of Colombia and South Africa as co-chairs of the Hague group to coordinate diplomatic and legal action to counter what they describe as a climate of impunity enabled by Israel and its powerful allies. The Hague group is a bloc of currently 8 states, launched on 31 January in the eponymous Dutch city with a stated goal of holding Israel accountable under international law. The Hague Group's formation in January marked a turning point in the global response to exceptionalism and the broader erosion of international law. Rolanda Lamola, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, said, quote, that same spirit will animate this Bogota conference, where the assembled states will send a clear message: no nation is above the law and no crime will go unanswered. Together, we will work to introduce concrete legal, diplomatic, and economic measures that can urgently halt Israel's destruction of the Palestinians. Israel's war in Gaza, increasingly condemned by experts and governments as a genocide, has killed more than 57,000 Palestinians and displaced almost the entire population since October 2023. The onslaught has left the Palestinian enclave barely habitable and left 2 million people starving. Quote, the Palestinian genocide threatens our entire multilateral system. Marikigo Jalamera, Colombia's Vice Minister of Multilateral Affairs told us, quote, Colombia cannot be indifferent in the face of apartheid and ethnic cleansing. The founding members of the group included Bolivia, Colombia, Cuba, Honduras, Malaysia, Namibia, Senegal, and South Africa, which on the face of it doesn't sound too big, right? So if you're on that side of history, you're like, Eli, who gives a fuck about these people? Who gives a fuck about these? Oh, like I give a crap about Namibia? Oh no, Namibia doesn't like us anymore. Who in the fuck's in Namibia? But the interesting thing is states due to take part in the summit. So those are the members. States to take part: Algeria, who cares? Bangladesh, who cares? Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, China, Cuba, Djibouti, Honduras, Indonesia, Ireland, Lebanon, Malaysia, Nicaragua, Oman, Portugal, Spain, Qatar, Turkey, St. Vincent, who cares, Uruguay, and Palestine. So you start looking at this, you have Brazil there, you have Chile there, you have China there, you have Ireland there, you have Spain there, you have Qatar there, you have Turkey there, you have Portugal there. All of a sudden, you have a lot of people that are supporting for concrete measures against Israel. Members of the Hague Group have already taken major steps over the past 20 months to defend and enforce international law. South Africa, for example, brought a landmark case against Israel at the ICC for alleged violations of the Genocide Convention in Gaza. Several states in the coalition later joined South Africa's case. Additionally, Namibia and Malaysia blocked ships carrying arms to Israel from docking at their ports, while Colombia cut diplomatic ties. Since these efforts have been taken independently, the Hague Group aims to coordinate action amongst its member states and supporters for a stronger impact. According to the group's coordinator, the group had been formed in part as a reaction to the non-compliance of states with binding international legal obligations. This is a reference to the pushback by a number of Western states against the ICC's arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister Yoav Gallant in November of 2024, and Israel's failure to comply with multiple orders by the ICG ICJ to ensure the Genocide Convention is not violated in Gaza. So this could be an interesting thing, right? If you were a tech employee in Israel, what happens when people start taking more and more concrete actions against your country? Again, one of the big things I talk about with Israel is it's a startup land, right? Technology companies bloom, right? A lot of the drone companies are out of Israel, especially military type companies are obviously out of Israel. There's a lot of other startups. Wix is out of Israel. I use Wix, right? But the thing is, you're able to create those companies because of inputs from the outside world. What happens when those inputs start getting cut off, right? There is a mythology. One of the things we have to be careful about with our societies is, when do our mythologies start to become self-defeating? Like here in the United States, right? We have the mythology of our founding fathers. Our founding fathers were great leader philosophers that created the greatest country in the world. And here's the thing. You know, back in the day when, black people were told not to sit at the same counter that we were at, that we ignored the native population, that we ignored all of these folks, then there was a value there, right? We are fighting against communism. Communism is an existential threat against the United States way of life. Ergo, we are going to put our founding fathers on a pedestal and, right? Well, here's the thing. You fast forward, right? I'm almost 50, so I've been on this planet for a little while, right? Here's the thing. African Americans, far more integrated into society than they were. Native Americans, far more heard in society than they were. Other folks, far more visible and the rest of it. And here's the deal. A lot of those founding fathers literally owned slaves. At the exact same time they were talking about man's inalienable rights, they owned human beings. And so you do get to a point in time when you start having to caveat how amazing our founding fathers are. Because if you keep putting them on the same pedestal, those people that you were putting on a pedestal were more than happy to slaughter, to actually genocide an entire population on this continent in order to have more farmland. Right? If you are a Native American, you may look at our founding fathers slightly differently than a whitey would, right? And the thing is, nowadays, right, you have voting rights, you're part of society, the whole 9 yards, and so you keep putting these founding fathers up on a pedestal, it's going to get a bit wonky, right? Especially with African Americans, right? We got this weird, slave denialism going on in the United States, which is bizarre. It's there. There was a war fought over it. There was Jim Crow. Some kind of it's well documented. It's documented. Anyways, but right. So if you're an African American and you're seeing the founding fathers put on and that's the thing. Maybe not the ideal, right? Look, the Declaration of Independence was great, right? You might be a black person and say the Declaration of Independence was great, and the Constitution was pretty good. And the people that wrote these documents had some fucking issues, right? And we as a society can go back and can revisit our founding mythology and update it for modern times, right? That would probably be wise when everybody has a vote and the whole 9 yards. Why I bring this up is the whole thing with Israel. And again, Netanyahu's a danger to you bastards, right? Because Netanyahu comes out and there's this whole thing. We will fight with our teeth and nails if we have to. Well, there's the founding mythology of Israel, right? You come out of World War II. You come out of the Holocaust. You have these people flooding into Israel. You then have the wars where by hook and by crook, the Israelis were able to win, right? They were not expected to win. They were able to win through conviction and force. There's something called BDAR, Battle Damage Assessment and Repair, which is fascinating to look at from the Israeli perspective during those wars. And the thing is, their founding mythology is when America was pretty ambivalent about them to begin with. The Western world was pretty ambivalent about them to begin with. The Arab states didn't want them to be there. And so they were able to dig out this colony in the Middle East and stake out their boundaries. But that's not today. You're not fucking manufacturing those F-35s, jackasses. So many of the munitions that are coming into your country are coming from us. We are literally paying for the munitions that you're using to slaughter the people around you. So much of what's going on in Israel right now is not being done simply because of grit and force of willpower. It's also being done because the most powerful empire to exist up until this point in time has been funding the ever-loving shit out of you arrogant fucking bastards. And so there needs to be a real question with you folks, is at what point are you taking our inputs for granted and superimposing over that your founding mythology that makes you believe all this is happening simply because of your force of will? And what happens when we fail? Israelis, right? No matter what you think. Whether you think I'm a Jew, I'm not. I'm not a Jew. Whether you think I'm anti-Semitic, doesn't fucking matter. Look at this from a practical point of view. The United States is failing. We are failing. You are what, 9 million people? Israel is something like 9 million people, surrounded by hundreds of millions of people that have a direct memory of you killing people they loved, right? The diaspora from the Nakba or whatever is now something like 8.5 million people. There's almost as many people that are descendants of the Nakba as there are Israelis. Do you fucking understand math? And the rest of the world is nauseous of what's occurring. And so when you look at this, right, it's really easy. Who the fuck, again, I know. Who cares about Ireland? Who cares about Spain? Who cares about Namibia? But if it starts to build up, as I've said, the next time I vote, not another fucking bullet, not another fucking bomb, not another fucking dollar. I do not want a penny of our resources going to Israel. And what happens to your country? What happens to your people when that starts to be the mentality of the world? Something to ponder. Something to ponder and something to think about. But yeah, I think this is kind of curious to consider and see how the world shifts, and things to be pondering with where you want to be in the world. As I've said before, a lot of my international viewers, there's this whole question about how to come to the United States. And one of the things I've said for many years is, are you sure you want to? Are you sure you want to? Is the United States actually the best place for your technology career in 2025? And I would highly question it. Unless you are a rock star AI developer, I would highly question if the United States is actually the place that you want to be. And so this is something to just be thinking about as these international divisions start shaking out, right? We've had this globalized world. We've had this world where we've been sharing resources and sharing people and all this. What happens when that breaks down? Like, I think about that with World War I. When we think about technology, you don't think about diesel engines, right? Diesel engines were the internet of the early 1900s, right? Before diesel engines, you had coal and steam power. Coal required a hell of a lot of space for the amount of energy that it produced. Diesel engines literally revolutionized the world. Literally, right? Things could go from China to England relatively quickly, right? All of a sudden, there was a massive amount of globalization. And there was the idea before World War I that there would be an end to all these massive wars because there was so much globalization. We were so interconnected, it was not valuable to anybody to get into a war, is what was being espoused. All the way up until hundreds of thousands of people were being slaughtered in a single day. Right, and so that's one of the things that I consider right now, like with the divisions that are coming. How does this break down? I don't know. Some things to ponder. Some things to ponder and some things to think about. What do you think about this? What do you think about 20 states declaring concrete measures against Israel? You see the 8 founding members, you're like, yeah, whatever. But then you're like, Chile, Brazil, China, Turkey, Spain, Ireland, some of these other countries. Does that make it a little bit more nervous? Where do you think this is going to go in the future? Do you think the United States is basically losing our power to control other nations because, basically Trump is on a permanent PMS, right? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. As always, whether it's a thumb up, a thumb down, an awesome comment, or a horrible comment, it is all an interaction as far as YouTube is concerned, so put your thoughts down below. Do remember silicondojo.com exists, so we're having Louis Rossman on, literally for me. I'm going to have lunch, and then I'm going to have him on, and then we are having the VP for AI models for IBM on Thursday, so we'll get real technology professionals to come in and talk about the technology world as they see it. We will have more and more of those. So you can go to silicondojo.com and join if you like. And with that, see y'all later.